up with search. It's a challenge. I visit Pandia because Pandia gives me search engine news. This is not for parents and principals. It's just a good way to find, and it's too much for me most of the time, but it's a good way for me to get alerts. I visit Gary Price's info docket on a regular basis, and that feeds some of the stuff I put into my portals. Here's something that's driving me crazy. So I was at ISTE last spring, and everybody was flexing their apps. Do you know what I mean? All right, so they were showing me, they said, Joyce, you're a librarian, come on over here. I've got the CIA World Fact Book on my mobile device. They'd come over and they'd say, look, I've got a dictionary. And I said, big deal. And so I said, do you have any idea what you actually could put on that mobile device if you'd only asked a librarian? So we are doing a really terrible job getting the word out. This was an article from the New York Times about all the great little resources you can put on your iPhone if you're a budding know-it-all. However, this New York Times reporter didn't know that all he had to do was contact his public school or university library, and he could put these big apps on his iPhone. I'm going to do this right now, but you'll get distracted. All right, so say you're a kid at my school. You're a kid at my school. So I'm giving you just one of the publishers, the Gale app. What you now have on your mobile device is, I couldn't even fit the books on the bookshelf on this slide. You have the Gale Encyclopedia of Medicine, the 30-volume novels for students, American Decades primary sources. You have all this, and you don't have to pay a penny for it. And I'm talking about not only your school library, your public library, and your university library. How many of you know about this? All right, we've got to scale this out. And everybody, when you leave this lunch, you've got to figure out, with the GPS system, you can get your public library's resources on your mobile device. And then your kids can do their research, or do the preliminary research while they're sitting on the bench at basketball, and then go home and actually address the stuff that they need to do later. There's so much you can do, librarians, to pull this together for the whole community. This is just one example. Unfortunately, I had to eliminate a lot of what Google dropped in the last few weeks. But what I want my kids to do is to be able to immediately get to the very good Google tools that they need. And it's not just Google's first search box that they need. They need way more than that. And so this is just a little Blogster poster on the sorts of tools they can use. I think this slide just means that I'm really angry with Google for losing the news timeline and the Wonder Wheel and all the stuff that they got rid of. Here's what I want, and if anybody knows the people at Google, I know a few people, but they haven't really listened to me. I want Schmoogle. Google for schools. Or Google, I don't know what to call it, but I think they should bring back all those things that were in labs that they got rid of and put them back. It doesn't hurt them. In any case, among the things that just with Google is to really have kids look at the related search terms. They're very useful in developing context and vocabulary. And I call these things après search. The kids laugh at me when I do that. But after they do their search, what they need to do is look on the bottom in the left. Those are really powerful tools. That will get them to those related search terms. And there's more for this infomercial. So this is powerful because what Google is a vertical search, right? It returns results page after page after page after page. And the result that you need is as likely to be, if you're a bad searcher, on page 500 as it is to be on page 1. So how do you create a horizontal search out of a vertical search? You use some of these tools. And that timeline is amazingly powerful. So you click on timeline and all of a sudden you've resorted your results and you can look at that bar graph and see when things are trending. Bust that open and then your results turn into that year. Researching things like the Munich Olympics. It's really important for them to see that and bust open the various different more granular periods of time. Another thing that is fairly recent is that Google now sorts by reading level. So after a search, you can click on reading level and another type of bar graph will come up, and I think it's Lexile score, I'm not certain, but you can click only on basic results and really resort them by student reading ability. Another thing that's very cool, Google always had a define feature, but now it has a pretty full dictionary with a pronunciation guide. So basically, after you do your search, if you don't know what a word means, just click on the dictionary and it'll bring up the definitions right there. One of the things you can do for younger students, this takes about 5 minutes to get set up. Create a Google custom search. I've done this for documentary and nonfiction films. So if somebody in my school is looking for where is Super Size Me, immediately all my nonfiction documentary portals are searched at one time, and they can figure out which portal Super Size Me exists in. But what you do in the elementary level by creating a Google custom search is eliminate the noise. So if you only want your kids to look for, there's some kind of animal project, for instance, if you only want them to look at zoos and museum sites, you create the Google custom search that only investigates zoos and aquarium sites, and basically that's where they're searching. I'm not all that fond of Google a Day yet, but if you want, it is a strategy for playing with developing Google search skills. But these are other posters I've done for the elementary libraries in my district. These are search tools for kids that younger children can use that if it's not in their face, they won't discover it. As a librarian in your building or district, you need to pop these out so kids will see them. Some wonderful search tools for kids. Similarly, I don't want my kids always searching on YouTube, but there are some wonderful video search tools for kids that you can pop out. Welcome to grab now that everybody in my curation workshop knows how to embed, just grab the embed code for this if you like and embed it in whatever else you want. Anything that I put out, you can assume has a Creative Commons non-commercial license on it. I've also pulled together kid reference. Wouldn't this be cool? Do all of your libraries have these little reference shelves for kids? This is a mess. I'm not proud of it. It's a work in progress. I really, Laura Cohn retired from the University of Albany a year or so ago, but right before she left, she wrote this blog post. One of the things I think is really important, we can no longer be content to train students to understand the difference between peer-reviewed journals and popular magazines, to appreciate the value of books, newspapers, and reference sources, and to understand how to evaluate garden variety websites. We're on the cusp of profound changes in the scholarly process. The evolving nature of publishing, scholarly conversation, and peer review is rich fodder for our students. This makes the work of forward-thinking instruction librarians challenging but not impossible. And I really think it's time to understand that even though we want our kids to look at peer-reviewed scholarly and academic sources, for many of our kids' passions and projects, it's not the best choice. How do they find the good stuff in a world that's not all scholarly and peer-reviewed? Well, I think this slide's out of order, but I'll address this now. All right, forget I said what I just said, okay? This is back to children's search tools. This is something that searches over Google Safe Search, and it's very cool for your elementary library because you can put your own elementary brand on it. Put Hillside Elementary School on it, and it will search over, and you can get a cute picture on it too. Quintora Kids, back to Kids Search tool on the web are probably going. And this is another really cool tool for kids. I don't use it for my high school students, and I'll tell you why in a sec. Boolify teaches how to create a search statement using Boolean logic, and it works actually as a search tool above Google, and it works beautifully on an interactive whiteboard and gets kids really interacting with the search process. And they can build good searches. It's a great tool for that. I kind of had trouble with it because it works over Google, and the ad, you have to kind of teach them to eliminate the ad later because Google assumes an ad, but I think it's a good instructional tool. For the high school, I really like SortFix. Has anybody used that one yet? Yeah, it works really good as an instructional tool because you can look at your results and grab the words that make sense, bring them in, put the words you don't want, the noise words, and remove, and bring any words you don't know into the dictionary, and it'll define it for you. And if you haven't introduced Wolfram Alpha to your math, social studies, or science departments, how many of you are fans of Wolfram Alpha? The only thing it won't do is find documents for you, right? And it'll do everything else, and it's great for creating comparisons. So these are search tools that you can introduce to your faculty and your students. Finding Dulcinea is a treat right on time. Okay, we're going to keep going. Mashpedia is like my favorite tool in the last 2 years. How many of you are Mashpedia fans? Oh. If you want an alternative to Wikipedia as a starting point for student real-time research, introduce them to Mashpedia. Mashpedia will pop up the Wikipedia stuff, but it'll also give them all sorts of real-time news feeds. It'll suggest the hashtags. It'll put the breaking news from the various different news wires, Reuters, AP, NBC, CBS, NBC, all of them. It'll come into one place, and it'll keep refreshing because it's real-time search. And this is just a real, my kids use this all the time. And I think it's replaced Wikipedia for them as a starting place. Okay. I use these curation tools as search tools. And we also talk about what hashtags are. This is, when the Japan tsunami hit, we discovered this was an important hashtag, and we tried to figure out who was worth following and who wasn't worth following. We also use RSS feeds an awful lot. When my kids do searches in the databases, I have them create either email alerts or RSS feed alerts. And they are pushing information to themselves. And they can set up an RSS feed or an email alert with a Google search too.